Navigating the Digital Jungle with Sue Atkins and friends.
Welcome back to Navigating the Digital Jungle with Sue Atkins and friends, where we help families find their way in the ever-evolving landscape of technology. I'm Sue Atkins, your guide on this journey. I'm here today with Angeline Corvaglia, creator of Data Girl and Friends, empowering young minds with online safety and AI literacy videos, games and educational materials, and Parven Kaur, the founder of Kids and Clicks, a platform dedicated to helping parents navigate the challenges of raising children in the digital age, with a focus on digital well-being. Parven provides resources, tips and guidance for managing screen time, online safety and fostering a healthy balance between technology and offline activities. So we're here to guide you through the digital jungle, and topic of the week this week is good tech, unlocking creativity and the positives of the digital age. We're going to dive into this topic because it's, I think, often overshadowed by concerns and challenges. And yes, we're talking about the positives of technology today. Joining me today is Beverly Clarke, who is passionate about harnessing technology for good. And we're excited to talk about the brighter side of tech today, because tech opens up so many avenues for creativity that were unimaginable just a few decades ago. So whether it's through digital art, music production, video creation, or even coding, children now have access to tools that allow them to express themselves in incredibly creative and diverse ways. And these digital platforms give them the freedom to experiment, to learn, and to grow their creative skills. So let's get started. Well, today I'm delighted to say that we have Beverly Clarke MBE. She's an award-winning woman in tech and a leader in education. Beverly works to bridge the gap between industry and education, and she seeks to raise the outcomes for all through understanding of and access to technology. She's a strategic advisor, education consultant, speaker, published author, writer, coach, podcaster, trustee, and founder of the new charity Technology Books for Children. So you don't do much really, Beverly, do you? Me trying to read all that out. So thank you so much for joining us. You are an inspiration, and I'm delighted to have you here. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Sue. Thank you for having me on. It's when you read it out like that, it's like, oh wow. But in reality, I call it a portfolio career, and all of these things overlap. They're not just individual things where you've got to reinvent the wheel or anything. They do overlap, and they complement each other really well.
Well, it's wonderful. And I do know you from old because of your wonderful books, which we get onto in a minute. Now, let's start off by, how do you believe technology can be leveraged to enhance creativity in children and young adults? We're very mindful on the podcast to find balance. So many people, we know the dangers and we are trying to alert people to them, but also technology is fantastic. So how do you believe technology can be leveraged for creativity and for good?
It's a great question. So I think with technology, we need children to be able to experiment and collaborate and to create the future solutions, to innovate really. And really need them to be dreaming about tech, thinking about it in different ways, as opposed to just consuming it. So, sort of they could be coding up a solution, or making some sort of music, some software, creating something new, using tech to streamline what they're doing, for making things easier, to just going beyond what is just presented in front of them. So I think there's loads that they can be doing. There's video editing, there's digital art now. Rightly or wrongly, there is a space for digital art, because I know creatives are very upset about some of the AI that's taking away or changing what they're doing. But there's also that space also. And I think we need to have that both sides of that conversation, which is it's a different conversation, but both sides are equally as valid, I would say. And also this storytelling. How do we tell stories? What apps are we going to use? How can we solve healthcare issues? Is that whole innovation there? So we really want our young people to be solving our real world problems.
Absolutely. And what's interesting about this is I find that intriguing, but parents listening to this today, do they find that? And how do they encourage their children to take all those wonderful things that you've suggested? For a parent who's not used to it, how do they embrace it? I mean, at school they do, I'm sure, but how can parents get involved in trying to help?
Absolutely. When I do my talks, I do tell the story about a delivery driver from a well-known supermarket that delivered my food shopping. And they were like, what do you do for a living? Conversation we had. And when I mentioned I worked in tech, it was like, whoa, I don't know anything about that. My grandson does, but I don't do anything related to that. And then I realized that person had actually driven to my home. They'd navigated here. They were holding a handheld device, which was then obviously feeding back into the supermarket. And the whole supply chain, there's a whole load of different tech was in use. But they didn't see themselves as connecting with tech, which I found quite interesting. But of course, they delivered the shopping and left, so we didn't delve into why don't you find tech, think that you're part of this tech conversation. So first of all, let's take the grandson, for example. He is playing with things, but it's also scary. So take an interest, okay? So their activities at libraries, for example, their tech clubs in the communities, take an interest. See it beyond just going to a traditional club, which may be an arts and crafts club, which has got its place, but start looking out and beyond and talk about your job. Describe your job to a child and then say, well, what do you think about this? And these are conversations. They'll start saying to you, well, guess what? We talked about this in school. Okay. There's also reading magazines. There are lots of tech magazines out there, which put forward tech in a really simple way. There's obviously your podcast, and I did an article recently about tech-themed podcasts for children. So introduce
Yes.
children in an easy to understand
That
format.
would be good, yeah.
And I won't forget books, of course. I write, and it's about normalizing tech for children. So, as part of a family time, let's have a tech story. There's so many stories about fairies and monsters, which are great. I grew up on them, but how about just introducing some tech stories?
Well, you have a Facebook page where you talk about technology books that kids can be reading with parents or on their own. You also are starting that wonderful big book of tech. Tell us a bit about all of those things that you do that encourages parents to look there.
Absolutely. So the Facebook group is fledgling, but I'm telling you, it's doing really well. So we post questions in there and encourage that conversation. Did you read this book? What did you think about it? What would you add to it? How would you extend that story? So going back to what you first asked about that creativity, young children could develop. How would you extend it? Could you see it working in a different situation? On the charity website, we've got the books. And also, if you sign up for the free resources, so we can just grab your email address, of course, and keep in contact with you. Leave us your email address and you can access free resources which help you to have those conversations, the what, the why, the how, all of those further conversations that are needed for family reading time with a tech theme.
Well, I think it's confidence building for parents, that kind of thing, isn't it?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
they just don't think out of the box, perhaps if they, oh, well, I didn't grow up with it, I'm unsure. So that's why I think your resources are fantastic for families and for parents. Can you share some examples then of how technology's been used successfully to bridge the digital divide in underdeserved communities? I'm very interested in that side of it, and I know you are.
Well, yes, I am a trustee for two charities, one of them specifically with a remit of bridging that digital divide and alleviating digital poverty. So before we get into that, I'm going to describe what is meant by the digital divide because this term could just be used and we need people to get to grips with what it means and what does digital poverty mean. So the digital divide is essentially the gap created in unequal access to modern tech. So this could be affecting you in healthcare and schooling and work. It's this gap. And it affects different demographics. So age, if you're elderly, you could be excluded from accessing certain tech. For example, it's a user journey through an app, things like that. It's a voice recognition. If a system isn't trained to recognize, say, a young voice to an older voice, that's part of the divide, okay? So, it's the geography. If you're in a rural area, there could be impact. And, the government has got Project Gigabit, which is trying to get, I think it's up to about 85% of the country with that ultra fast gigabit broadband by 2025.
I just read an amazing book about that. It was called Unmasking AI with a
Oh,
woman,
yes.
Joy Boda. Thank you. And that
Yes.
really opened my eyes. Also, that the facial recognition, that her face wasn't recognized. That's a massive part of the digital divide that you're describing as well, right? That
100%.
certain people aren't served by the technology.
Oh, yes. I mean, so that Joy's book is one that we have reviewed and would encourage our older children, sort of 11 to 14, to read. And that's on the website with a lovely review and their questions to support it. Because facial recognition technologies, it's on your phone all the time. When you're accessing your phone, there was an article about it being trialed on one of the train systems here in the country. We've got facial recognition technology, which is recognizing emotion. So it isn't just recognizing your face, it's your emotion. Now, who decides whether you're happy or sad based upon, we have a lot of what would I call them? Sort of stereotypes of what a happy person looks like, a sad person, and so forth, a grumpy person. But the AI is being trained with this. It's really important to understand that. And of course, with Joy's case, if anyone doesn't know, Joy is a black woman, and then she tried to access a system and it just would not recognize her face because of the darker skin tone. And when she put on a white mask, effectively, then it worked. These things, the digital divide, well, just the tech divide, I'd say. It's things like, when you put your hands on the dryers to get your hands dried, well, it's to do with how light is reflected. And if some of those dryers don't work or haven't worked, and it's to do with the light reflections. If you are darker skin tone, it may not just start working for you. So it's interesting. When I go out and about, I do notice it. There's also the, what you call it, when you're in hospital and it's a little thing they clip to like your finger to check your pulse. Some of those don't work depending on skin tones because, again, it is to do with light reflection. So there are lots of these things going on, these inequalities that you need to be aware of, and just consider who the tech is serving all the time. So, with this digital divide, I mean, this is specifically about unequal access, but there's lots of inequality also going on with technology, and we need to keep having this conversation. So when we talk about getting our young people interested, people are going to solve problems that affect them. And that's really important. So that's a really important reason why we all need to take an interest in tech. Otherwise, you're going to have tech rolled out, which you haven't had a say in. And I'd say I'm hopeful about tech. I think it's one of those new spaces where we can all have a say.
That's great. That's good to hear that it's encouraging and hopeful, because sometimes you get down a bit of a warren of it being such a negative thing, and AI in particular, people are going down that route. I mean, in your experience, what are some effective strategies then for addressing that digital divide? So ensuring that all children do have access to technology and its benefits.
Hey, so this isn't just the UK, this is a global issue.
Yes.
So, many countries are implementing things like one laptop per child. We've got, during the pandemic, we really noticed it here where some families had a device, but they didn't have the right type of device. So it was sort of getting laptops into schools. There was also then getting the connectivity going, because those are two different things. So the Digital Poverty Alliance, of which I'm a trustee, they've got different schemes. So if you head to the Digital Poverty Alliance website, there's like Tech for Families, and in different parts of the country, they run schemes like that. They've also looked at other underserved groups like prison leavers. So there's Tech for Prison Leavers. So, I would say head to that site, have a look as a starting point. And there are also other charities like the Good Things Foundation do a lot of work to bridge that gap. So there is a fair bit out there, and also, small organizations doing an awful lot.
Well, that's great, because that's signposting people to start themselves. So, In your experience, how do we then, or parents, balance that conversation, right, between potential risks of technology with its positive impacts on creativity and learning? What do you sort of say when you're giving talks about that balance of privacy and yet creativity and embracing it all?
Well, obviously, everything always underlined by safety, of course. But I would say that book series, I'd say that I've encouraged that conversation, and it's really in to do with conversations.
We say that all the time, don't we,
Yeah, it
Angie?
is. Yes.
Yeah, talk and listen and
Talk
chat.
and listen.
Do you have the feeling that young people understand the concept of the digital divide better than maybe older generations because they're the digital natives, or do they have any advantages in that? Have you noticed?
I can't say that I've noticed that. And also that term digital native, where I think there was a statistic a few years back that children coming out of school up to a certain point would be sort of all online. They'd never need to write again, or they'd just all be typing. What I do remember is that I was an older part of this, so I was sort of a bit of a Luddite where this thing was concerned. But that hasn't happened. I don't know that there's digital natives. It's perhaps slight more au fait with digital tools, but again, it's to do with the understanding and how you've been taught and what you've been exposed to. It isn't just that all young people are digital natives. I really don't think that's
I think that can
fair.
be bandied around too much,
Yeah.
actually, digital natives. And I don't necessarily think that that's a good turn of phrase in many ways. You touched on your books. You're in my book club, the Sue Atkins book club. That's where we first met because I love them and I can see them at the back there behind you on the bookshelf. Tell us about your books. They're so good.
Yeah, so yeah, to develop on the conversation, I was going to say that the charity, we're leading up to a period of the year where there's Advent, and this will be always on our social media site. It doesn't matter when you're listening to this podcast, really, but if we've got daily activities to encourage that talk around tech. So, there's fun things, design a self-driving car, create a Christmas scrapbook, share it. It's about using digital tools. And if you're creating and then sharing, then that privacy comes in and sharing safely. And it's that conversation. So I would say for parents, you need to be aware of what your child is doing. And now I know this can be difficult. When my children were younger, it could be a challenge. They're on a phone or then they're on a tablet or they're in a computer and it's all moving around the house. And, it's a hard job to keep up with what they're doing all of the time. So some of the guidance given in the past has been to have central sort of a device in a house where you could see what's going on at all times. But understandably, if you're in a big family and, everybody's off on a device, which, rightly or wrongly, everyone can have their device and be tucked away somewhere else. But it's being mindful what is going on here.
Yes. That's the important part of it because kids can be up in bedrooms. So you don't quite know what they're doing.
Oh, yes, I've lived it. So I know what it's like. It's not an easy one to crack,
No, but at least you've got to try, haven't you? Because you can't just go, "Oh, I don't know and I don't understand it." That's not okay because I think you do need to get a grip on some of it. And you do need to put boundaries around some of this stuff anyway. You put boundaries around healthy eating and brushing your teeth. So why wouldn't
Yes.
you put boundaries around your tech use? Some of it's good. We talked before on different episodes of this. There's a difference between screen time and what you're actually doing on screen time. You could be looking up a recipe. You could be just endlessly scrolling for 3 hours. There's a big difference in what we mean by screen time.
Yes, it must be purposeful use of tech. And, you just asked me about my book. So this came out, this was my pandemic project when I started thinking, what could I do to address the digital divide? And
Yeah.
so it's aimed for children as age 7 to 11, but I'd say for all family use, of course. So these conversations could be had. And so the books are set against a backdrop of a smart city, which is effectively a city where, we can use data in real time to, say, manage emissions, to manage transport systems and things like that. So it's this whole concept of a smart city, of which London is a smart city to some extent. You've got cities around the world, like Singapore is another smart city. So we've got these smart cities around the world, and this is everywhere, really. And So Ava and Chip, the characters, and when you go to the website and have a look, you'll find out where the names have come from. They're all tech-related names, okay? So against a smart city, and they just basically go into a smart city with their mum, and they explore the city and talk about the tech which they're encountering. For example, a smart shop. So if you've heard of the Tesco Go shops or the Amazon Fresh shops, which you just scan your way in, you pick up what you want, you put it into your bag, and you leave. And your billed. So how does that work? Where are the cameras and all of that? So, I went into one in Holborn to have a look and see. I tested it out for myself, and I asked so many technical questions to the security guards. I was just, oh, how does this work? What happens here? And I saw another one in Islington recently, but I've seen them all over. So it's this sort of experience. And if, parents can have conversations with their children, like even say 10 years ago, you go into a supermarket here and there were lots of tills across the front. Now you've got self-service, you've got like perhaps only 3 cashiers. So there has been a change in jobs. So what are people now doing? So when we talk about tech taking away jobs, also balance it. Have there been any other jobs created? What skills are now required? So it's that continuous
Yes.
conversation about tech in action and what's happening. So that's Smart City. And then Self-Driving Car was the second book.
Yeah, it was. I was just about to remind you.
Self-driving car is, I really wanted to put it out there because we've got self-driving buses here. And this is in Oxford, there's a self-driving bus. Haven't been on that one as yet, but I was over in California in San Francisco, and I rode in a self-driving car. It's just like getting an Uber. Honestly, there is no difference. Order it up on your app. It turns up. It took me the second time to work out my initials were on top. It's sort of flashing around. You open the door with a code, and in you go.
Did you feel safe?
I did.
Did you? I'm intrigued because I'm always curious. But
Yeah.
I just thought, oh, I wonder how that would feel.
So I did write a blog about this also.
Yeah.
Because there is a weird feeling when you think, okay, what if it doesn't stop? But what happens if it goes rogue? And just goes, takes off with me, living some sort of dystopian thing. I don't know, what could happen. But
Kidnap me.
yeah, I suppose the doors don't open.
Yes. Oh my God.
My
Yeah.
husband has got a habit. He will get in the car, a taxi, and he'll close the door. Now you do that, that's a signal to the self-driving car to take off.
Right.
All the doors are closed. I'm like,
Oops.
don't close that door. It sure that I've gotten in, especially when we were going in the front or back seat.
Oh,
And it's just little
wow.
things.
Bye.
Yeah, anyway, bye. I don't know where you were off to. I'm still
Oh,
here.
wow. Wow, wow, wow.
So I felt safe. And there's things like the brakes were applied really firmly because San Francisco's quite hilly.
Yeah, I know.
It reminds you safety was there,
Right.
sort of put
And-
on
and-
your seatbelt.
And how close does it get to other vehicles? That was my thing.
Safe distance. What it isn't doing is riding your bumper or anything like that.
Yes, like some people do.
None of that. Whatever they've measured out was a safe distance. It stopped for pedestrians, zebra crossings.
It's not electric, is it? Can you hear it so that people crossing the road can hear it's coming?
No, they're almost silent. They must be electric.
Yeah, because that's the worry that people are talking about now, because sometimes they just sort of creep up on you. And for the elderly and people like that, they're not concentrating and, oh, there it is sort of thing. I'm just intrigued by it. We're hijacking you all about smart cars.
Tell you what, it's so fascinating. I did spread the money about. I did take a couple of Ubers and support the, the people that need money, but it was so fascinating. You can have your own music playing or take the Waymo music. So Waymo is the name of the company there. This is gradually being rolled out. So we've got, the whole bus fleets are going to be self-driving here. And, so things like, but you still need to do a driver's license, or maybe you need some sort of self-driving drone license or something instead. I don't know.
How intriguing. That's so interesting because my father-in-law is 96. We've just encouraged him to stop driving. Because actually, because he was a danger I felt on the road. So it's interesting. Where can we find your blog? People interested in this, I'm mindful that they can go and read about your experience. Where is it?
So I've got it on LinkedIn. And if you aren't on LinkedIn, I've got it on my website. So my Ava and Chip website and also my Beverly Clarke Consulting website. And I'm always happy to share it out, on
Yeah.
social again. But I think it's really, really important because we don't, we think of it as a distant technology and it's something happening somewhere else or just it's an experiment. Well, it may be an experiment, but it's an experiment on the streets that anyone can access. There's no longer a queue. I was just a tourist on holiday, downloaded the app, off I went. You know,
Send me the link to that. We'll add it to the show notes because I think it's very, very intriguing because that's the future, isn't it?
the
Also,
future, it's here soon.
it's here. Well, yeah,
It's
that's the
here.
future. Yeah,
And
the
you know
future is
what?
now.
Yeah, the future is now. And you also buy the books that, this smart home. We're living in smart
Oh,
homes.
yes.
All
Yeah.
of our homes are smart.
Have you done now? Because you have a whole plan of them. How many are released? Because there is smart city, smart car, smart, what
Smart
is it all?
home. So those
Yeah,
are the books, to read, the stories.
yeah,
I've
yeah.
also got the tech activity book, which has got fun facts. It's got crosswords. It's, dot to dots, word searches, that type of thing, which you can do with as a family. You can do on your own.
Yes.
Grown-ups or kids, can both do it. So, writing is something I discovered in 2016 because I write for across different audiences. I frequently write for adults and in what, education and tech and women in tech and things like that. And I just feel that part of bridging the digital divide and addressing issues such as the lack of women in STEM and that gender difference in the STEM sector, and particularly in tech, is going to be met through books. That's where I've come at
Yes.
this from.
And
Wonderful.
how is that, may I ask? Is it because the females were more attracted to the books, so they feel less like barrier?
It's really interesting because we run some competitions through the charity and so forth, and I find that there's more female engagement. So it could be, don't know, haven't delved into the data. So it's just an initial gut reaction. I'm thinking that maybe it's mums who get books for their children, and it tends to be mums that do certain jobs in society, and that's who's connecting with it, really.
That leads us on to the charity. Do
Yes.
tell us how that started, how that's going, all about that, because it really is inspirational. So tell us all about it.
Of course. So leading on from me creating my book series, I started thinking there is a wider remit for this. Where are the books on tech? Who is floating this to the surface? And I thought, well, no one. Plus, I taught for 14 years. And I thought, where are the kids reading for pleasure about tech and internalizing it to bring out that creativity and, those conversations? Because what we have are computing lessons in school, and I'm a former computing teacher. And computing is one aspect, but tech is about using tech in other areas, say in hairdressing or in the building trade or in being an estate agent or in finance and all of that and legal. So it isn't just a computing lesson. So it's tech in other sectors. And I just looked around. I thought, it's technology books for children. The domain name was free. Everything was available. And I thought, I think this might just be a gift.
Yeah,
It's sort of a signal.
A sign.
Yeah. So, it's also the curve of learning. I've been on a vertical sort of, learning. It's not a curve, it's a vertical line, learning about this. So I set up the charity. I had no experience of doing that before. So I went through that whole process. And that's, something on my own podcast I talk about learning my tech journey and what it's like. So I've set that up. You're one of my trustees. Thank you very much, with your wonderful parenting angle. And we've literally been building the social following. We're also building up our resources. We've got a wonderful book review group who are reviewing books. We're building the resources. Well, I'm building the resources. I've taken some time out from my day-to-day work to build this. We've also got, which hopefully will start sort of gaining more traction, book ambassadors, which we're aiming to have going into schools, reading tech themed books. So you sort of key stage 1, key stage 2, so that's up to age sort of 11. There'll be stories and discussions, and it's something I've trialed with my own book series, and I've seen the reaction of children, so I know how it lands and how it works. So you can go in and have that conversation. And with Key Stage 3, we're going to have more of a careers focus as opposed to just reading a story. So it's that, for example, we spoke about Joy, Bill and Weenie and unmasking AI. So we would have more conversations about biographies. Perhaps a child is read or maybe encouraged to read a biography about a famous person in tech, or, like an Elon Musk biography or something. We need to have these conversations. Whatever you may think, there's a lot going on with characters like that. What do they think? It isn't just all happening to us. What do we think? What do we want to happen? And we need to have those conversations. And, this links into, for example, in my subject area, if I was teaching in computing, you've got morals, ethics, legal, that side of it is that conversation, or a rich conversation needs to be had, so that when people are out there in the world, they're going to question, what is this app collecting about me? Why is my gym now going app-only access? What benefit is it to them? Because I don't believe it's benefiting me. I've got to take a device which is then distracting me. I don't want this device. We talk about people going to restaurants to eat and putting away the phones, but now they want you to scan the menu and then do a whole menu on a tiny screen. Who is that helpful to?
Oh, Angie's got something to tell you about this.
Right, I'll go for it.
I posted about that because I got annoyed about it. Just my family, we were at the restaurant. I just thought Saturday evening, this was so annoying, and I posted about it. And this went viral. I got like 400 comments and like 1,200 reactions. People feel very strongly about that. There was a lot of discussion about that.
Around the QR codes.
It's outrageous, You're expecting elderly people to navigate a small screen. Then you've got to, first of all, connect to their Wi-Fi. So there must be some sort of data grab going on at that point. I just want to eat a meal and talk to the people I'm going out with.
Yeah, and put down my device.
Yeah. What happens if you don't have one? There is an expectation that I must have the latest phone.
Yeah.
Which is quite expensive. So we're back to this digital divide.
Listen, Beverly, I'm mindful of the time. Tell us where we can find out about your charity. What's the website that people can go and explore?
As the name says, it's right on the tin, Technology Books for Children.
Wonderful. And tell us where we can find out more about you and all the things that you do as well.
Oh, yes, thank you. So I'm Beverly Clarke. You can find me at Beverly Clarke Consulting. That's my website. At Ms. MSB Clarke with an E on social media. I'll also say that you can find the charity at Tech, TECH, 4, Tech for Kids.
Wonderful. You do so much and it's so inspiring. So thank you for giving up your time today to join us. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Thank you both for having me today. Thank you.
So this has been a fantastic discussion. So to wrap up, it's clear that technology, when used thoughtfully, can be a powerful tool for creativity, learning, and personal growth. I think the key is balance and involvement and fostering a sense of responsibility in our children as they navigate the digital world. So thank you very much, Beverly, for sharing your insights today. I'd like to tell you a bit more about my new book. As a parent myself, I know firsthand how overwhelming it can feel to keep up with the digital world our kids are growing up in. That's why I wrote Navigating the Digital Jungle Essential Scripts for starting meaningful conversations with toddlers, tweens, and teens about smartphones or social media, AI, cyber safety, and much, much more. My book is bursting with ready-to-use conversation starters that make it easier to guide your kids through everything from screen time and social media to the tricky terrain of online safety and artificial intelligence. It's like having a roadmap for those critical and important chats every parent needs to have. My book of Digital Jungle Scripts is all about giving you the tools to start those difficult but important conversations, no matter your child's age. Easy, practical scripts to help you feel confident and connected. So, if you're ready to feel more self-confident around discussing Roblox, Snapchat or WhatsApp, grab your copy of Navigating the Digital Jungle Essential Scripts and start transforming those tough tech talks into meaningful family moments, and let's get those conversations started at navigatingthedigitalJungle.com/resources. So let's look at family change for this week. Ideas really, small things that you can do to leverage creative apps and websites together as a family. So why not choose apps that promote learning and creativity or problem solving and make it a fun family activity where everyone learns something new together, whether that's coding, whether it's art or a new language. Just be a creator, not a passive passenger. Parven, what are your tips and ideas around this idea of creativity?
Encourage tech for good projects. Inspire your kids to use technology for positive social impact, whether it's creating a family blog about sustainability, participating in online charity initiatives, or learning about coding to design helpful apps. Show them how technology can make a difference in the world. I think what's even more important is understand what your child is interested in and then build on that interest. So, for example, if your child is interested in arts, then find ways to build on their arts, whether it's browsing through a YouTube channel about arts, whether it's going on apps, for example, Nuki, to bring their creative ideas into real life projects that they can actually see. The opportunity is endless, but it's very important to know what they're interested in and how you can actually build on them. So I think the other thing that I would like to add also is that a lot of time when we think about creativity online, coding seems to be the subject that comes into matter all the time. So for example, with my own daughter, she's not very much into coding, but she's into so many other creative stuff online. And in fact, she has said that this next summer she wants to learn how to edit videos like mommy. So, it's again just building on those things with your child in terms of what they're interested in.
Absolutely. Angie, how do you manage it? What are your thoughts?
Actually, I'll just kind of continue what Parvin said because I have found a few resources that are just so simple but really fun. There's code.org where it's almost like a game. It feels like a game for kids to learn coding, and also great AI tools where you can put a sentence in and it creates a song or it creates a poem. Find those as well because it's actually really fun also for adults to realize what's possible now. So it's also a way of not just having fun, but learning together as well. So your child will soon know better than you how to do it. And it's really fun to see like different songs and styles just from putting a few words in.
Do you have, Parven, any apps that you recommend?
Yes, so Canva is a very good place to start designing things because the user interface is so easy and it's so simple, and it is really made for people who are non-creators, non-designers, non-graphic designers with those kind of backgrounds. Start with Canva, and then is that marching out to other things to make it even more creative so that when you put it together on Canva, it looks really nice. So, for example, a mid journey can be a little bit daunting to start with, but then once you know how to prompt on mid journey, it becomes very, very easy. So, for example, my daughter this last summer said she wanted to create her own book. So, what we did, I told her on a piece of paper, write down all the ideas you had. And she had an idea of a mermaid flying on a dragon. Then we went to mid journey to actually create an image of, a mermaid flying on dragon. And then we put it onto Canva to make the book come together. And it was so simple and it was so easy. And it was something really fun that we did together. But very interestingly, just this morning on the drive to school in the morning, we tend to practice her timetable. And so what she did is, can we create a timetable song together? And I was like, that would be really, really fun. So Suno AI is where once you've got some lyrics in mind, and if you can't come up with the lyrics, you can go on to ChatGPT and ask it, create a timetable rhyming song for a 5-year-old, and then it will create the prompt for you. Put it onto Suno.ai. It's converted into music. We download that and then play it on the way to school. And that's how she's now really good in her timetables because we've created the song together. And then we went on to Canva, and what we did was turn this into a video. So there is is Timetable 3 and 5 song on my YouTube channel that she actually watches that teaches her timetable. So again, she is learning so much by just using simple tools that I'm sitting with her, because obviously she's very young. She can't click on a mouse and stuff like that just yet. But again, it's how I bond with her. My husband bond with her with exercise and running. I bond with her using these different things. It's just become a thing we do together now.
That is fantastic, isn't it? She owns the song in that sense. She'll want to practice her tables. It's totally creative. You're bonding and laughing and sharing. You're using AI. I mean, it's just ticking all my boxes. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, those are the same
Yeah.
tools that I use as well, and I really confirm that it's really magical. Yeah, you described it so much better than me. But yeah, it's also easy to use.
That's the secret, isn't it? It's got to be
It
easy.
is. Yeah, magical in the sense AI is not magic. The magic is the bonding, what you just described, not the AI. Yeah, so it's an amazing experience. Yeah.
Well, we'll put that into the show notes and we'll put the links at the end to actually find out how you do that. So you can click on that and go off and have some magic of your own on the way to school.
Listener questions.
So, are there any communities or global initiatives that we can get involved in as a family that use technology to make a difference? That's from Mel Drummond. Angie, any ideas about some global initiatives or things where Mel can get involved in using technology?
There are a number of different options. Basically, you can just choose whatever kind you want. So there's websites like the Volunteer Match and UN volunteers that offer opportunities for families. There's also environmental initiatives like iNaturalist. Another example is Ecosia, a search engine that uses ad revenue to plant trees. You can also support crowdfunding for social good. Just look on Kickstarter, GoFundMe, this kind of stuff. Also look for local organizations that are, looking to help. As I say, the UN, from the last episode where there was Andy Briarcliff, he also just recently started a Slack group to get a global sharing on technology and online safety. There's a lot of different possibilities.
So, from my point of view, if you're interested in getting involved in global awareness days, Mel, there's something called World Cleanup Day or Safer Internet Day, and they have lots of events online, and you could perhaps get involved in those related activities as well. Because if you're engaging in those activities, your family are harnessing the power of technology to contribute to meaningful causes that make sense to you, and of course can have a real positive impact locally or globally, whichever you choose. So I hope that helps, Mel.
Now for some top tips.
That leads us on to weekly quick tips. One simple tip for parents to unlock the positives of the digital age and foster creativity is to encourage children to use technology as a tool for creation, as we've mentioned loads of times in this episode, rather than just for consumption. So, for instance, introduce them to apps and platforms where they can design, where they can express themselves creatively. As we've said, whether that's coding or digital art or music production or video editing or photography, all of that shifts the focus from passive screen time to actively creating and learning and allowing kids to explore and develop these wonderfully valuable skills while embracing the benefits of the digital world. Anything you'd like to add, ladies, to the weekly quick tips? Angie?
The biggest thing to do is just do something together. That's my tip.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, do it together and make it new and
Sure.
exciting for everyone. Yeah, that's my tip this week.
Okay, and Parven, have you got anything to add to that?
I think you've summed it up quite well, Sue. I think the only thing I would add is I would re-emphasize on finding out what your child is interested in and build on their passion and build on their interest using the different tools that's now available to you. Because I think we are living in such exciting times where there's so much opportunities to learn from using all these different tools. So don't ban it, don't strip it away, but use it to build on those skills that your child is really interested and passionate about.
Wonderful. Makes sense to me. And when I was teaching, that'd be called child-centered. So let's go to quick scripts to start important conversations. So you could start off by saying, "Hi, everyone. I wanted to take a moment to talk about something really exciting with you. how technology can help us all to be more creative and connect with our friends. We know how we love to create art, don't we? And we love to build things together. There are so many awesome apps and tools out there that can help bring our ideas to life. So let's look at perhaps some drawing apps, or let's create some digital artwork together, or some coding stuff together. Let's explore, shall we? Do you know of any apps already? Love to hear what you think. So you just get those conversations started with your kids. And if you want to find out more scripts, Navigating the Digital Jungle Hub and resources page, I've got loads of ideas on there for you too. So, Angie, what have you been working on this week?
So I'm still doing the two main things. One is the global conference, the SHIELD Global Online Safety Conference, getting more and more people in countries involved to get unheard voices heard and bring people together. And then I kicked off this week the awareness campaign that I'm doing with some privacy experts in the US about privacy and ed tech. So I've been interviewing some parents who became privacy passionate people and sharing information. So it's been quite enlightening for me as well. I didn't know a lot of the stuff that I've been learning.
And where can people find out more about you, Angie?
The best place is LinkedIn for the moment.
Okay, and Parven, how about yourself? What are you up to at the moment?
I think I'm building on my social media profile right now. So if you can follow me on Instagram or TikTok, that would be really, really helpful, because I think I've been doing this for quite a number of years. And one thing I realized, the best way to sort of reach parents, to get the message out, is being where they are. And that is on the different social media platforms.
So Parven, where can people find you?
If you go to kidsandclicks.com, you can find me there, and you can link me on Instagram, on TikTok through my website, and subscribe to my newsletter if you want to find out about the latest online safety trends and news.
Wonderful. Well, this week I've been working on my power hours to organisations. I do power hours, which is when I go in and work one-to-one sessions on Zoom designed to offer practical, actionable guidance to families and organisations through the digital age. So if you're interested in bringing me in to talk to your workforce, you can find out more about that on Digital Jungle Power Hours.
Navigating the Digital Jungle with Sue Atkins and friends.
And that's it for today's episode of Navigating the Digital Jungle with Sue Atkins and friends. Remember to subscribe, leave us a review, and tune in next week as we continue on our journey through the digital jungle. And we'll be talking about the impact of technology on our mental health and well-being. We'll be chatting around the links between screen time and sleep. We cover all the different subjects. So go to navigatingthedigitalJungle.com to find the episode notes, download the transcripts, look at all the resources that we have there, and do send us an email if you'd like a question answered on the episode. It's info@navigatingthedigitalJungle.com. Remember, technology isn't something to fear. It's a tool that, when used wisely, can open up a world of possibilities for all of our children. So until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and keep navigating the digital jungle with us.
Yeah, jungle out there.
Time for a word from our sponsor.
I'd like to tell you a bit about this episode's sponsor, ICT in Education Teacher Academy. Are you an early childhood educator looking to confidently integrate technology into your teaching? Join the ICT in Education Teacher Academy, where they support educators like you with step-by-step guidance, hands-on examples, and a community of peers to help you succeed. Their online workshops and resources are built to fit into your schedule, so you can learn anytime, anywhere. Start empowering your students through tech today. Visit ictesolutions.com.au to learn more and sign up. That's www.ictesolutions.com.au.